Hello, welcome to the first in a new series of update videos on previous scams that I've encountered. Today, we're going to cover Insurance Supermarket. If you haven't seen it, Insurance Supermarket was my first ever expose, and I'm really proud of how it turned out. To recap the original video, I received an unsolicited call from someone named Mary trying to sell me a life insurance policy. She then connected me to Bernadette Broughton with Insurance Supermarket, who signed me up with EMC Life. Somehow, EMC Life actually approved my policy, which just shows how incompetent the company actually is. However, the first payment failed because my checking account number was fake, so Insurance Supermarket kept hitting me up for money constantly. They would call nearly every day. They would also call me and it would just be dead air. And when I would call back, I'd get the option to talk to someone. So I would press one and the call would drop. And I found 24 numbers that exhibited this behavior. I reached out to the company and asked them to confirm if these were their employees and this was genuinely them or if it was a scam, but they just asked for my phone number and basically didn't care. Then, a couple months later, the exact same thing happened again with a separate phone number. I received a call at 7 in the morning from someone with an Indian accent who transferred me to Tashika, who transferred me to Jonathan Eliff with Insurance Supermarket, who also signed me up for a policy with EMC Life. So I reached out to Insurance Supermarket again, this time identifying myself as a journalist with far more information, and all they came back with was, well, your number wasn't on the GNC, so there's no GNC violation. And that's it. The fact that they're cold calling people, they didn't care. Spoofing the number, didn't care. Called at 7 in the morning, TCPA violation, didn't care. It's just a really shitty company in general. And that's where the video left off. So what has happened since? Well, as mentioned in the re-upload video, shortly after I published the original video, Insurance Supermarket submitted a privacy complaint to YouTube, presumably about the work emails being displayed in the email section. And unfortunately, I was on vacation at the time, so I wasn't able to go in and blur them out. And so after 72 hours or so, my video was taken down. However, when I got home, I went and made the necessary edits and re-uploaded, and it seems to be fine now. Also, a correction, I did not mean to imply that their agents were not licensed. It turns out this tool from the National Provider Network is for using your state license number to look up your NPN, not the other way around, and that's why there were no results. It's not that they're not licensed, I'm just an idiot. For some reason, the state of California, in all its glory, does not let you look up a life insurance agent by their NPN for some bizarre reason. However, other states, such as Florida, do. And so if you look them up in the state of Florida using the NPNs they provided, they check out. There's Bernadette Broughton, there's Jonathan Eliff. Now, before Insurance Supermarket smacks me with another privacy complaint, I have to make it clear this is completely public information you can find yourself in a matter of seconds if you really wanted to. I'm not sure if Jonathan still works for Insurance Supermarkets. Whenever I try to call him, it just says he's on the phone and he doesn't call me back ever. However, Bernadette does seem to still work there because when I called her, this happened.
The party you are calling is currently busy. Bernadette Broughton, thank you for calling, is on the phone.
Which is unfortunate because she's the one that said,
But I like this company because they really have integrity compared to a lot of companies I've worked for before.
So, I mean, if only she knew how dirty this company is. However, this does have their email addresses. Now, in the original calls, I asked them repeatedly for their email addresses and they refused to give them to me. I wanted to send them a copy of the call recordings and evidence showing that Insurance Supermarket is a shitty company. And so now that I have their email addresses, I might just send this stuff to them. Insurance Supermarket kept hitting me up for money after this video was published. They left me several voicemails, and then we had a 20-minute call trying to resolve the bank account issue.
In your case, we have been trying for weeks now to try to add the ACH, but apparently there is an issue with it. So we can definitely use the credit card or a debit card for you to make the transaction so that way the policy doesn't lapse or terminate because of the banking issue. Are you able to send me a screenshot of the Chase account, like a bank statement or something, verifying that you are still with them so I can see if they can check with Stripe on their end in the meantime?
She asked me to email that to her, which means that I finally have an email address for this company. Now, I would love to show it to you, and there shouldn't be any issues with that because it's a generic company email. But given my history with Insurance Supermarkets, I'm going to play it safe. However, I did take that email address and I immediately emailed Rose a link to the expose. And the attachment is the video in the search results. Talk about an ultimate power move. I'm still so proud of this. Now, Rose did not reply to this email, but she also never called me again. Zoe also got hit up for money, and these calls were interesting. First, because when I had a 209 number, they spoofed a 209 area code when calling me, but Zoe has a 310 number, so they spoofed a 310 local number when reaching out to me about my policy. I've said it hundreds of times before. There are valid reasons for a company to spoof, but there is no reason for Insurance Supermarket to be spoofing numbers when they contact me. But more importantly, Insurance Supermarket promised me in an email that they would add my phone number to their internal do not call list. And yet,
Hi, Miss Brooks. This is Shadera calling from your insurance company. In regards to your existing EMC National Life Policy, I'm only here to inform you that your most recent payment did not go through.
So we were just reaching out because when we did try to drop your monthly premium, it did come back as no payment method was on file. So we'll just
internal DNC, huh? Sure. Anyway, essentially what happened is somehow my policy was submitted and approved without a bank account on file. So they're hitting me up so I can add a bank account. However,
okay, so it's giving me a kickback code saying it was previously have failed or was a disputed item on this account, but I'm not sure why it's doing that because you haven't had a payment method here at all. So
Okay, so let's go ahead and correct the application because looks like the application was not submitted correctly, okay, and there was some missing information. And if you need to adjust the payment amount or the coverage amount, I will be able to do that as well.
Is Jonathan going to get in trouble?
No, he's not in trouble. He just, he's not going to get into trouble. And I will make sure. I don't work off of commission in this department. I try to, correct it, and I will let them know to count the credit for him. But my only concern is the policy was incomplete, but we have you down as a pending lapse. I'm not sure how, meaning that you are over, which will, even if we fix this, it will be double payment, and I don't want you to pay double payment. So do you have time for me to go over and redo it really quick so we can set up just one payment and not two?
So it'd be like a rewrite, or how do we manage to get it to just
It's a rewrite. I have to walk you through the application, which will take like 5 to 10 minutes to go through everything.
Shouldn't we get Jonathan to do it since that's his job? Do you want me to call him?
See, let me see if I can forward this to him. I just wanted to get it done for you while I had you on the line.
Yeah, I just you have better things to do with your time than, this is his job. He messed it up, so he should fix it.
All right, so he will give you a call shortly, okay?
That was very bold of her to admit on the record. Come on down to Insurance Supermarket where we submit your insurance applications incorrectly. Unfortunately, Jonathan never called me to rewrite the application, probably because my number was on the internal do not call list. For realsies this time. Speaking of do not call, it's also worth noting that Insurance Supermarket has been sued numerous times for TCPA violations. This is just a handful of suits that I've found, but there are many more that I'm not showing you here. Now, of course, if this company was completely above board and not a scam and not doing anything wrong, why are they embroiled in so many lawsuits? It's one thing to make a YouTube channel and shame them on there, but it's another thing to bring forward legal action if nothing nefarious occurred. Some were dismissed by the judge, others they reached a settlement and the plaintiff voluntarily dismissed. But again, why are they embroiled in so many lawsuits if everything is on the up and up at this company? Insurance Supermarket has a horde of phone numbers spoofing my local area code that they would use to call me. And when they would call me with these numbers, it would just be dead air. So I would call it back and get this.
Thank you for calling Insurance Supermarket. Push 1 to speak to a representative or push 2 to...
However, whenever I pressed 1 to speak to a representative, the call would just drop. And this happened with all of these phone numbers. Since then, these phone numbers no longer go to an insurance supermarket. A lot of them just go to this robot that responds with one of the following phrases.
Hello? Who's speaking, please? Good evening. How can I help you? Good morning. Hi. May I ask who's calling? Greetings. Who is this? Good afternoon. Hi. Who's this?
And says absolutely nothing else afterwards. However, some of these also go to the classic pick a scam.
Don't go anywhere. You've been upgraded to our new savings line where you can save hundreds of dollars. Press 1 to continue.
So it's interesting that the company would get rid of all these phone numbers because, again, if it's a legit company, it's very professional, everything's above board, they have integrity, as Bernadette says. Why would they get rid of all these phone numbers that they had? What's the point? Why not just keep them? That's all I have for general updates, but I do have one more thing. Occasionally, individuals with insider information, either about the overseas call centers that make these calls or the companies that I've exposed in these investigations, will reach out to me. And these communications are always appreciated. If you have any insider information or you just want to say hi, lindsay@unlvgroup.com. As John Walsh would say, you can remain anonymous, you can make a difference. In this instance, Lisa, obviously not her real name, reached out to me, and Lisa has intimate knowledge of insurance supermarkets' contracted call center operations. Lisa indicates that the individuals I spoke to, like Mary and Tashika, are called qualifiers. They work in various call centers. They are not insurance supermarket employees, but they work in third-party call centers. She did give me the name of one of these call centers, but I'm not going to share it to protect her identity. The qualifier job is advertised as cold calling and qualifying individuals for life insurance policies and working with advisors to get them signed up for these policies. Once an individual applies to be a qualifier, they are interviewed via Skype, and once they are hired, they go through a 5-day training process where they're given the script and everything they have to go through. Everything is very detailed. They have very specific wording. It's basically down to a science. There's not much flexibility to it. They have very specific wording that they have to use when making these qualifying calls. Qualifiers use formal/professional English, but they're also instructed to try to make the script a little more personal. So for example, they might say things like, wow, you sound young for your age, or awesome, sounds like you're in perfect health, with that sort of sugary, excited tone that's designed to make it sound more personable. Specific to age, they're specifically very clearly instructed to use the word young when speaking about age, and apparently it's meant to be a form of flattery. Here are some examples from the calls that I had.
By the way, you sound so lovely. How young are you?
I'm 67.
Oh my God, you don't even sound a day over 40. Wow. Okay, how tall are you, please?
I'd say around 5'6".
5'6".
Yes.
Wow, maybe I'm the shortest woman alive. By the way, you sound like such a lovely lady.
Thank you.
Wow. By the way, what if I gave you a ticket to Florida? Would you go? And Zoe, I must say, you sound so much younger than 67. What's the secret?
They might also ask you basic questions such as how's the weather or how's your day going. These are just talking points. These are just ways to keep you on the line so they can transfer you to an advisor. Most qualifiers just see this position as just another job, and they'll do literally anything that's not illegal to get the person transferred to an advisor because their performance depends on it. The qualifiers have no idea what happens to the person after they get transferred. They don't even know if the insurance plans are real, actually. If someone wants to be placed on the do not call list or threatens to call their attorney or call the police or report them to the Better Business Bureau or anything like that, the qualifier is instructed to report the name, the phone number, and the type of threat to a supervisor in a group chat that everyone has access to. Management tracks the qualifier performance based off the number of discounts and the number of transfers. I'm assuming by discount she means the prescription savings cards that they push on you every single time. The supervisors at this particular call center are not from the US. They are unfamiliar with Western culture, and so that's why you get this disconnect between what's acceptable. I'm not suggesting they're from India, but for example, I've also had this happen with the Indian web development companies that have reached out to me. They generally have no concept of a DNC, and they just kind of don't care. I mean, I literally had someone from Plaxonic tell me, hey, listen, I was under the impression that as long as your information is public and I have a product I need to sell to you, I can contact you. They just have no concept of a DNC. They don't really understand that this is unacceptable. That's just their culture. In general, at this call center, most employees had absolutely no knowledge about the DNC, TCPA, privacy violations, how to handle data, anything like that at all. It was just completely thrown out the window. This is the most fascinating part. When it comes to the outbound calls, they use an auto dialer, which is not surprising. Those also very illegal without prior consent. And they call hundreds of numbers all across the country. The system is set up so that you cannot trace anything back to the company. You never find out the actual company's number. It's a spoofed number every time. When you get called, your name, phone number, date of birth, address, and email address are populated on the screen. And if that information is not available, the qualifiers are trained to ask for it, but to ask for it in a way that makes it seem like they already have that information. Don't be direct about it. In her words, the qualifiers are told not to leave room for questions, take control of the call, and don't allow objections. If the person objects, they are taught to respond with a scripted rebuttal and go straight back to the script to prevent further interruptions. And this is why I don't ask where they got my number, who they work for, or any questions, because they don't like going off script and it will make them quite upset and it won't work. So why bother going down that road? She says that she doesn't know if Insurance Supermarket is a scam or not, but that the way that they run their call centers is quite unethical. And I agree with her. It is a real company with real agents selling real policies, but the way that they're getting their leads is quite unethical. To reiterate, this information is about one of the call centers that Insurance Supermarket contracted to make outbound calls to fish for leads for their advisors. These individuals were not Insurance Supermarket employees. I also can't prove that Insurance Supermarket leadership knew about these practices, because again, these are third-party call centers. However, given the numerous lawsuits and the fact that they frankly didn't give a shit when I emailed them, I can say, in my personal opinion, that they probably did know and didn't give a shit. Ultimately, again, in my opinion, any company, any independent agent, anybody who, when informed that illegal robocalls are taking place on their behalf, and that's how they're getting their leads, and they just don't care, is guilty. So Insurance Supermarket is guilty. And I'm very happy I was able to expose them. I'm very thankful to Lisa for her insights, and I'll see y'all in the next video.